Hello, everybody, and welcome back to for today's episode of Screamers for Scripture. We have Dennis and Jordan from the Christian Deathcore band Unworthy. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, man.
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. And it was the perfect time because you guys have been dropping some absolute heaters recently. With the Jonah themed singles, Side Mission and You Can Run, but You'll Never Hide. I may have to censor the first name. I just realizing I'm probably saying that within the first like 5 minutes of a YouTube video, but I think we'll be fine. But yeah, this is an aptly timed episode. How do you guys feel the reception of those singles has been so far?
Jordan looks more at the Spotify numbers than I do, so he might be able to speak more to that than I can.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, the reception's been great. We've hit new peaks, more audience than we have before, and I think that's just a testament to uh, you know, putting in the hard work that we got to do and putting out music that we think people enjoy and it actually working out.
Right. I I love the it feels almost like a change of pace for you guys, just a tad, because at least as an audience member or some like listener of the music, um a lot of your guys' theme is sort of like the dark emotions that come with being someone of the faith, and I think that's a beautiful um perspective to write from. But then I I think this is, like I said, it's like a new pace for you guys because you're going to the Old Testament stuff, the Old Testament stories. Um, what inspired that change for you guys?
Well, it was actually supposed to be part of a compilation album that we were going to be part of with several other bands,
Mm.
and I think it was going to be four bands in total, and each band was going to write like at least two songs on a different chapter of the Book of Jonah. So we had went ahead and wrote and recorded the first two tracks that we've already released. And then when we finished recording them, like basically we were told by the record label, oh, well, none of the other bands ever ended up, being able to do anything. So we're just going to cancel the project now. So
Ah,
after the other guys had joined the band, because Eli had joined the band at this point, because the first song, Suicide Mission, is actually a song that he wrote. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, it was an old, he was planning on using it for cultists, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it was a cultist demo that was rejected, and so when Eli came to us, he's like, "Hey, you guys want to use this?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, this song slaps."
Yeah. So we were basically, when the Anthony and Zach joined, we were like, well, we already have like two songs that we wrote for this. Why not go ahead and just make four songs, one for each chapter? So we decided we were just going to make it into our own EP, so we didn't waste what we had already wrote and recorded.
okay, that's awesome. So for any listeners out there who are silly enough to have not heard these heaters yet, I'll explain to you, at least again. You guys would probably do a better job of it, but I'll just say, to get the gist out. The first song, Suicide Mission, is about and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonah's like defiance against God to not go to Nineveh. And I'm assuming the song is mostly from his perspective. And then the second song, um, You Can Run But You'll Never Hide, is more so from God's perspective, being like, no, like,
Yeah,
for lack of a better explanation, that's kind of what it's
right.
about.
No, yeah. Basically, I mean, yeah. The Suicide Mission is, yeah. It's got kind of a couple layers to it. It's about Jonah's defiance, not just because, like, in the Bible, a lot of things that we hear is, oh, Jonah's afraid that the Ninevites are going to kill him, or they're, not going to listen to him. But he also doesn't want to preach to him because he knows, oh, well, if I don't preach to him, then there's a very good possibility that God's going to like burn the city, and I get to see the people that oppress my people get their judgment due. And therefore, if I don't preach to them, then they get destroyed. It's a win-win. He's like, I don't have to go, and then I get to see them destroyed. So that's also part of what the song's about as well. And it's kind of Jonah's defiant because he's like, well, why is God going to give, these horrible people who have like tortured and slaughtered and murdered my people a chance at repentance when, we've been crying for help and God's kind of been deaf to our cries. So it's kind of, yeah, seeing it from Jonah's perspective and, his, more than just his fear of what could happen to him if he shows up there, but also the fact that he kind of wants to see them destroyed as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really
pretty
cool.
nuanced. Sorry, go ahead, Mike. I would think I interrupted you.
No, I was just gonna say that's cool because I feel like that's a topic that's not really touched on. Is like, yeah, Jonah didn't want to go, but he also had a lot of resentment for them. So it's cool that you're bringing attention to that because you don't often hear that get talked about. I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Jonah's definitely one of those weird books because a lot of people don't talk about the end of the book. I mean, we always hear in church, oh, Jonah preached and then God spared the Ninevites, the end. But the real
Right.
end of Jonah is that Jonah gets upset at God and he's like, hey, God, like, this is why I didn't want to go because I knew you were going to spare them. And I didn't want you to spare them. And then God ends up kind of slapping Jonah back down to reality and gives him a hard lesson at the end of the book. And then the book just kind of ends abruptly
Yeah.
after that. So, yeah, it's something that I don't think it's brought up in church often enough.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree because I grew up. This was a really nice change of pace because I grew up with the VeggieTales Jonah, where it does have
my
like
gosh,
it does have this crazy happy ending, and that's not reality. Like I grew up and I was like, wait, what are you talking about? They don't like dance at the end, and there's no fish or not a big whale. They
high
sing.
key,
And,
I really
no,
wanted to do a merch
it's
drop
very
of like
story.
all of us as VeggieTales.
Please do that.
I know.
Proceed with that.
Yeah, we gotta swap the VeggieTales character faces with their own.
Yeah,
That would have been
man. With
that
like
would've been
the heavy metal font like above it. That would be so good. VeggieCore, bro. VeggieCore.
VeggieCore. Now we need
We're on to something.
we need some unworthy you did a cover for today. I think it's time to cover some silly songs with Larry.
Yeah. Yo, God is bigger than the Boogeyman Deathcore cover. Oh my gosh, bro.
We could just sit and give you ideas all day. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll just do a cover of me trying to find my hairbrush, just like Larry. Oh, that would be so good.
Okay, I think that might be the next evolution of unworthy, the VeggieTales era. The VeggieTales era. Anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah.
But
back on topic.
Yeah, back on topic. I'm super excited to see the rest of the releases related to this recent string of releases. Another thing that like particularly stood out to me with the like Jonah-centered singles has been the artwork. I know that you guys may not have, unless one of you guys is secretly amazing artist or something that I'm not aware of. I know you guys may not have a ton to do with that, but it's something that really stood out to me is how great the artwork was for these drops.
Yeah, so the artwork we got Rafael Tavares. He actually did the artwork for This Present Darkness, our last album. And so when I was looking for another artist, I kind of wanted a even more darker, more brutal theme. And he's like, hey, well, like, here's some other work I've kind of done that looks a little bit more brutal. I was like, all right, yeah, why not? I'll try you out again. And yeah, he's honestly killed it, man. We're still waiting on the EP art, but I'm really excited to see what he's got in store for us. I think it's gonna be real special. His whole plan was between the singles and the EP to just really make it tie in together aesthetically, like the colors and everything. It's just all going to make sense.
That it looks awesome. They're definitely all t-shirt worthy, merch worthy pieces, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a huge sucker for like
really cool like album cover art, and I think like a Suicide Mission has probably one of my favorites. It's so fun to look at and very, very, very pleasing to just admire, you know. So awesome
Heck yeah,
job.
man. Thanks. Yeah, he
Music
killed
and
it.
a show. Yeah, and it was not you guys, but I thought I should bring that up. I don't know why that one particularly stood out to me so much. So we were talking about how uh, I, random segue. We were talking about how this is kind of like a change of direction from what you guys might typically do. Uh, not this like it's all been awesome, but what direction? Uh, this is either going to be a deep question or like a really simple question. So I'm sorry. What
Oh
direction
no,
do you? Okay, sorry. Um, what direction do you guys think you're going to take once you've gone through the Jonah? I guess the Jonah era of Unworthy, for lack of a
no,
better term.
that might actually be a little bit easier to answer than you would expect because
Okay.
I I would like to say that we pretty much got everything written for at least another 2 EPs in the future.
Ooh.
Because you know, now that Anthony and Zach and Eli are in the band, they along with Jordan have just been cranking out demos for new
Mm.
songs. I've I've written for quite a while now, so I just have a backlog of like lyrics that I have. So I've been trying to put stuff together for a theme. Now, I think we are planning to do maybe like a non EP or non album single by itself, maybe at the end of this year, maybe early beginning of next year, and kind of call back to our previous EP, like Where Light Divides, where it's just going to be very Jesus centric, very theological, all about Jesus. I don't know if I think we kind of settled on a title, but I won't say too much about that and artwork and all that. And then Jordan has a really cool instrumental that we've already got in mind. So that's going to be pretty sick. And then for the next EP, um, I won't go into a whole lot of detail just because, you know, we're still in the works.
Sure.
But I think we're going to write on more, I guess, current events and topical themes from like kind of a Christian's perspective of what's going on in the world today about just kind of division among people, just kind of just in covering things like intolerance and people leaving the faith and just kind of the things that are going on in the church right now. I think there's going to be a lot of brutal ideas that are you're going to hear for the next EP.
Heck yeah. I'm super stoked to hear that, specifically because you guys have done a really good job at finding really good metal topics in the more emotional side of the faith. This is something I say every time this is a rant I've probably gone on about a dozen times, both on this show and just to Michael, like in person or in passing conversation, is that we have the most metal faith in human history, and I think it's bar none because it's in like every aspect, emotionally, physically. Excuse me. It's all so heavy in both directions. And I think that's because, you know, it's real. But I want to get into that a little bit is what inspiration you guys have for writing your heavy lyrics, the core for the Lord stuff.
I mean, for me, usually it's like, I don't know, whatever is going on around me at the time. I mean, like the very first EP that I wrote, it was all about like a lot of it was about growing up in the I guess Bible Belt and the Southern church culture, and how that actually, in some ways, kind of made me bitter toward the church because I saw like the dirty side of church at that when I was growing up. And so there was a lot of that in the very first Unworthy EP. This is pre Jordan. And then when Jordan came on and the next EP, I think I just wrote a lot of songs about like what was it? In the Face of Death. It was a lot about like internal stuff about dealing with like death and persecution and things like that. And then I wanted to make the next EP with that we did with Rottweiler, the first one, where like Divide's very Jesus centric. So a lot of that was about just doctrine and theological things. And then yeah, when I was dealing with the death of my grandparents at the time that I started writing uh, this present darkness. So a lot of that was just kind of about dealing with life circumstances and from a Christian perspective, and when you kind of feel like your prayers aren't being heard or aren't being answered. So yeah, I think like and then with the Jonah EP, just because of our us agreeing to be on this compilation that didn't work out was kind of why we wrote Jonah. But I think the next EP is just going to be, yeah, like it said, more or less just kind of things that I've been seeing here and there in the news and in the church, and my thoughts and feelings about that from a Christian perspective. So I would say a majority of the stuff I write is just about circumstances that I'm dealing with at the time and how I see that from, a Christian point of view.
Wow, okay.
That's awesome.
Jordan, the same question goes to you that I asked.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I think there's a bit of a delay. I was just saying the same question goes to you that I asked Dennis. Like, when it comes to writing specifically, do you have anything in particular that kind of like inspires you, or like in particular, or is it just sorry,
Man. Well, I mean, I don't really play much into the lyrics. I'm more focused on the music. But musically, I
Okay.
tend to write in a style that I'm often listening to during that time. So it kind of just naturally comes out. I'm definitely like I listen to most deathcore more than metalcore than I used to, like in my early 20s or even like teens. Dennis is actually the one who really got me into deathcore. Like I listened to Impending Doom and maybe one or two other bands, but Dennis was like, "You got to check out this band, this band, this." And I was like, "Oh man, okay, this is so much better." Just in my opinion, I was like, opened up this whole new world for me for like riffs and ideas. So yeah, I've just been having fun with that and just trying to explore darker melodic tones. You know, yeah, it's been
Right.
fun, and it's been fun to have Eli writing with me as well. Bringing his expertise into more like beatdown stuff, and we're both kind of challenge each other in our writing capabilities. Where he's like, you write the riffs, and I'll write the big like slammy parts. But he's a great guitarist, and he writes great riffs too. And it's been fun to kind of marry our ideas together of like these really sick riffs and these really sick slammy parts, and kind of creating this new sound. I kind of like I know the first track off of our upcoming Jonah EP, he wrote instrumentally the first song that we released, and the second song I wrote. And so the last two songs, all five members collectively, we all had a role in writing it. And so I'm really excited for people to hear those, because I think those will be like a true a more true taste of what to expect from New Unworthy in the future. Like this is something we've all played a part on, where we all have our influences, like you can run You'll Never Hide. Like obviously like I wrote the majority of that song, but like Anthony, he kind of changed a couple of bass parts that sounded cool. Or like Zach, he, wrote his own fills. But the other songs, it's like, man, like we all like had a big hand in making this sound the way it did. I'm really excited for everybody to hear it. It's gonna be sick.
I know I'm stoked.
Same here.
Yeah. I don't mean to be that guy, but I want to know what bands inspire your guys' sound. You're just talking about. I mean, I'm assuming it's mostly deathcore.
Yeah. So man, I mean, I'll probably get a lot of hate from some people judging me, but dude, Thy Art Is Murder, man. Instrumentally, they're just like peak for me. I love them. They're so good. They inspire the sickest riffs. I know Dennis got me in another band, Through the Eyes of the Dead. Really enjoyed them. Even like, the classics like Whitechapel, Lorna Shore, obviously Impending Doom, In the Midst of Lions. Those are kind of some of my
Oh,
my
yeah.
top ones in that list.
That totally makes sense. I hear
Yeah, I
all
was gonna
those.
say they seem like all good picks to me. I don't know who's hating, but
Well, people will be like, "Oh, how can
You're
you
just
listen to a band that's not Christian? And you're being influenced by the devil." It's like, nah, man, it's music.
okay. Think like a lot of the best, whether it's metalcore, heavy metal, deathcore, whatever. A lot of the best Christian bands are inspired by secular artists, at least sound wise. I'm saying this as someone who knows like nothing about music other than what I'm told in these podcast episodes. But I think and that would be because we're not in the Renaissance anymore. Christians don't always lead the best like the music, and even though I think we should strive for that to be the best in whatever area of art that we can make through a God inspired lens. Um we're taking the incredibly talented art and using it to glorify God. I don't understand why people are like upset if you're inspired by a band that's not like if you're just inspired by Christian bands, you're gonna sound like a contemporary Christian music deathcore band. You know, it doesn't happen.
Right.
Anyway. Maybe another cover you can do is like like a bunch of contemporary Christian music deathcore cover EP. No, I'm kidding. If you want bad ideas, you know who to come to. Hey, we'll get back to the awesome conversation in a moment, but if you like what you're listening to,
Please, I'm begging you, please, like, comment, share, 5 stars, 10 thumbs up, please.
what he said. Enjoy the rest of the show. We're back. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Jordan, Michael, explain what happened to Jordan.
okay. Basically, what happened was the building adjacent to Jordan's building actually set fire, and it happened to be a pet like adoption center. So we had to go in and save all the puppies and the kittens. So he's a little tied up right now, but
What a hero. This is 100% true, proven, fact checked by American patriots. And now we'll have to sadly continue the podcast. I'm so sorry, Dennis.
I don't know how you. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep a straight face.
It's okay. I feel bad. We're dropping you like headfirst into our sense of humor.
No, it's all good. Yeah.
But we were just talking about musical inspirations before the puppies and kittens rudely interrupted us. Dennis, I'll ask the same question to you. Do you have any particular musical inspirations, whether it's lyrics, sound, vocals?
Yeah, I think the first vocalist I got into was a band called Zayo. I remember getting into them when I was like in high school. There was a guy that I went to school with that was a skater, and he like one day he was wearing a Zayo t-shirt in class, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" He's like, "Oh, it's Christian hardcore," and I was like, "You mean like POD, Creed, like Christian rock?" And he goes, "No, it's hardcore music." So I remember hearing their album and like I was blown away by like the raspy screaming style vocals that their vocalist has. So that was like the first band that I heard that had like those kind of vocals. And then
Right.
there were some guys in my hometown, as Jordan mentioned, that I got them into called Through the Eyes of the Dead. And they were like a big deathcore band in the early 2000s. You could actually find their stuff in Hot Topic back in the day. Like they were a pretty big
No kidding.
band. And, yeah, they had an album called Bloodlust, and it was like all over the place back in the early 2000s. In fact, like I remember when I was learning guitar, like they had a song called 2 Inches from a Main Artery, and that was like one of the first songs I learned how to play on a 7-string guitar. So like one of the first deathcore songs I ever learned. And then of course like the MySpace days, getting into like Suicide Silence, Job for a Cowboy. Those were some of my early inspirations vocally too.
Mm.
Currently, I mean, With Blood Comes Cleansing is another big one. Now they've gone three vocalists, and all three of them have been super amazing vocalists.
Yeah.
So like Robert being the current one. So definitely those guys. Diamonds to Dust is another current band I'm really big on. Christian. In fact, I had him send me videos on Instagram on how to do some of his vocal techniques. So I've been trying to like figure out how he does what he does.
Right.
And then of course, like, you know, all these new bands like Lorna Shore as well. Will Ramos is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no shortage of like amazing vocalists out there for inspiration.
Well, yeah, it's like everyone is coming together as like a deathcore hive mind and figuring out what animal noises we can make to make the
Yeah.
song sound better. I know Christian Roche from Diamonds to Dust is kind of like the gold standard of deathcore vocals. At least that's what I hear.
Yeah.
For Christian deathcore specifically. I think your vocals are stellar. That's not
Oh,
to diminish what you're saying.
yeah.
Just whenever I hear them mentioned in like a podcast or a video, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, their vocalist is insane," and it's true. It is actually true. I want they're one of the bands we haven't talked to, but
Oh, he was really cool. Like, I just messaged him. Like, I think it was prior to us recording where Light Divides. I think it was when I think the song Corpus Christi was huge, and I think we were also like tapping him to do a sequel with us, which we ended up doing Our Internal War,
right.
like around that time. So I was asking him, I was just like, hey, like, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to do some of the crazy stuff. You know, because I mean, prior into starting Unworthy, you know, I was probably, you know, early 30s. So I was at one of those points where I kind of thought I had seen all there was to see and heard all there was to hear. And I was like, oh, you know, I can do everything there is to do vocally. And then all of a sudden, these new bands like Diamonds Dust, Slaughter to Prevail, Lorna Shore, Immortal Disfigurement. Like all these bands were coming out, and these guys had these crazy goblin like screechy vocals and these weird noises they were making. And I was like, dude, that's inhuman. How is that even possible? So I started like looking up all these vocal instruction videos online, like Extreme Vocal Institute, and trying to figure out how to emulate those vocals. So yeah, it's definitely, I guess, humbled me in a way and also shown me that, you know, there's always going to be more to learn. Like there's never a point where you just kind of plateau and that's it.
Right.
There's always, you know, somewhere to climb.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because um I took some, I mean, I say this, I've said this in so many videos because this is where all my knowledge of metal vocals comes from, but I took some lessons from Michael Felker of Convictions for
Nice.
vocals, and it was a huge blessing. But I can barely do I can't do a fry scream to save my life. It's something I've been trying to learn. But I'm struggling to do that, and then I'll listen to like a Signs of the Swarm song and I'll be like, this is an animal that this is a recording of. This is not a person. You're not supposed to be able to make those sounds. But yeah, that's cool though. I'm glad that you uh continue to learn and evolve and develop your vocals as time goes on.
I mean, I mean, if there's a science behind it, which I think in a way there is, I would say be 90% of it mouth shape and tongue placement.
Right.
I've learned that like to like curl my tongue up toward to the roof of my mouth, but now I do it more like that, and I learned that that completely changes the way my vocals sound now. Yeah, that's like the main thing I learned. Like, and I think even like Christian said that in one of his things. He was like, "Oh, just curl your tongue like this," and that completely changed the way your vocals will sound.
Okay. Next time I'm in my
That is
car.
interesting.
Yeah, got another guy on YouTube called Extreme Vocal Institute, and he was just like, ugh, ugh. And I was like, "Oh wow, that totally does change the way my vocals sound." And, it was kind of like a light bulb moment. So
Okay.
I think that like if anybody was asking for advice on like how to make their vocals sound better, I always go to tongue placement and mouth shape.
Next time I'm in my car and I'm listening to a deathcore song, I'll have to try that out when I'm not coming off of a low grade fever.
On my next shower tour, I'm gonna have to try that.
Hour in the car. That's where it all begins.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You were talking about with Blood Comes Cleansing, we just saw them. Me and Mike just saw them live a few days ago. I know it's completely off topic from the vocals thing.
No, it's all good.
But that's when Robert was on the show, and that's exactly what he said. Is he just learned the vocals by just replicating the sound while he was like driving and listening to the music in his car.
That's pretty much how I did it too.
Now, what I got to figure out is the first person to come up with those vocals. I got to know what did they do? That when the songs didn't exist, did they just start screaming and they're like, wait, what if I screamed but it was cool? Like,
Yeah,
I don't.
it does make me wonder how long that's really been around. Because with Christian bands, even you had bands even in like the '80s, like Living Sacrifice, that were kind of doing that a little bit. Yeah, and then like Living Sacrifice evolved in the kind of like the early to mid '90s, and then you had like in the around the same time in the early to mid '90s, you had like Embodiment, who was considered one of the first deathcore bands,
Mm-hmm.
and so I feel like the Christian metalcore, Christian deathcore definitely has like a huge a bigger influence than most people give them credit for, because I feel like there wouldn't be like a modern scene without a lot of Christian bands. Like I know like a lot of your metalcore bands like As I Lay Dying cite Zayo as like their big influence, and then you have again like a lot of deathcore bands talk about like bands like Living Sacrifice and Embodiment being some of the first bands that they ever heard.
Well, now we're getting into in terms of the 2020s, it seems like we're getting into a bit more of a um like a Christcore renaissance, from my understanding, where we're taking that evolution of music in general and we're getting the God glorifying lyrics um to on top of it. um I think it's awesome that you guys, for one, have contributed to that, because I've always thought deathcore specifically, maybe it's just because it's a genre than most of the other metal genres, especially more modern deathcore. But it is a genre that does not get fed um, spiritually enriching lyrics very often, for lack of a better term. I don't want to be mean to anybody, but um, so
No,
it's
I
awesome
get
that
it.
more and more bands are contributing to that.
Yeah. Yeah, there was I would say there was probably a time in like the 2010s that I was kind of worried for the scene, because like every time I would hear about a band, it would be that band breaking up. For Today's
Right.
breaking up, Sleeping Giants breaking up, and Pending Doom went on an indefinite hiatus. Like in the Midst Alliance, like all the face down bands after like 2 or 3 albums, they were like, "Oh, we're breaking up," and I'm like, "Dude, what's happening to the music scene?" And now it's kind of like a lot of these bands are coming back. You might not have Sleeping Giant now, but you've got Holy Name, and then you've got,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, Convictions are still kind of running the gambit in the metal, a heavy bridging that gap between the metalcore and deathcore, you know, sound. And then you have, bands still like Fit for a King and, kind of also keeping it alive as well.
Yeah. I get what you mean, because I I would probably be considered a like newer fan to um metal, to like the core genres specifically. But looking back on metal history, it seems like a lot of the biggest it's heartbreaking. I'm not going to list any bands specifically, but it seems like a lot of the biggest bands that started as like Christcore bands became popular, and this is probably where the valley of popularity for Christcore was they would like drop the label and then they would
Yeah.
become really popular. And again, I'm not going to name anybody because I don't want to
Right.
I don't want to be controversial
Yeah.
or whatever. But
Yeah.
I know people who like lived through that era were like depressed because the music was like just going away.
Yeah, that's how it was for me too. I feel like I think it's very, it's not black and white, I think. And I feel like a lot
Right.
of people say it is black and white, but there are a lot of shades of gray, especially for those bands. Even as us, like being a Christian band or a band that says we are a Christian band, there are things that can be discouraging. And I think that, there are multiple reasons why bands may drop that label.
Right.
It's member changes where you might have a member who doesn't share the same views, and uh, there were a lot of bands I grew up listening to in the early 2000s when I was in high school, like 2002 to 2004, that, said they were Christians or had Christian members. So you kind of assumed, oh, they're Christian. And then they were like, oh, well, just because we have Christian members doesn't mean that our music, you know, has that same message, or, oh, well, this song doesn't really mean what you think it means. Or then you also have those bands that probably get tired of that label because God forbid that you smoke a cigarette or accidentally say a curse word, or have a beer at home, and then someone
Right.
finds out. You go, oh, well, I thought you were a Christian band. How can you be doing that? And I remember, even I had that mindset at one time. If I saw a band smoking at a show or having a drink, I was like, oh, well, they can't be Christian, because why would they be drinking and smoking if they were Christian? And I feel like that probably also deters a lot of bands
Mm.
as well. They're like, oh, well, we don't want to deal with the criticism of being, considered a Christian band anymore, because now we have to walk on eggshells for everybody. And, I'm not going to get too heavy or deep into this, but we've had instances where we've posted things in jest or humorous that unfortunately people will comment and go, "Oh, well, you're a Christian, you shouldn't joke about that," or you should only post things that are strictly Jesus centric, or I. People might read our lyrics and easily misinterpret them and go,
Mhm.
well, the lyric should be praising Jesus, not talking about something topical like depression. And I'm like, well, you're missing the bigger picture.
Right. I mean, it seems like there's kind of a standard put on you to
Right.
uphold the to uphold, um, when you have that label. Um,
Right.
and I know
It's a
for a
standard of
while.
perfection we clearly can't achieve.
Yeah.
And even themselves wouldn't be able to achieve it, but they like to put it on everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Funnily, no, you're good. You're good. Funnily enough, I think it's really good that like listening to your music, I think it's great that you guys are talking about topics that are often not addressed or tough to tackle. Like we talked about with Noah, the ending of the story that we don't often hear, and hard topics like depression. I think it's great that you're drawing attention to those, especially through the lens of a Christian worldview, because the reality of the Christian walk is that it's a messy one. And like you just said, nobody can live up to perfection. It's only through Jesus that we can attain a relationship with him. And I find it funny how easily people forget that. And I think it's
Right.
awesome that you guys are tackling that. So yeah, good on you. Keep
Right.
going.
Yeah. I mean, and there are times where like our songs like, from the last EP, like Forsaken by God and definitely Satan Whispers, there are times that we get comments that are people are like, how can you talk about things like that? Or like, how is this not you don't see this as blasphemous even? And then I have people that go, hey, like I totally get it. I was in the same spot that you were when I heard this song, and those lyrics really spoke to me. And there's times where I have to explain to people, hey, like you probably don't get it yet, but one day you will. You're going to be in that same position where you're going to be like, oh, now those lyrics make sense.
Right.
Right. There's a saying, he who is forgiven much loves much. And
Yeah.
it goes exactly along with what you just said.
Yes.
I love that too. To piggyback, like this is a college discussion group. I'm gonna piggyback off of what Mike just said. Um, that's something, the getting into those emotions is so inviting to both Christians and people who aren't in the faith. Um, because of this is a topic I shouldn't get into, but like stuff like prosperity gospel and people who subscribe to similar, not prosperity gospel in general specifically, but to that sort of faith where it is sunshine and rainbows. I know Cleansing of the Temple poked fun at this because their single "Broken Man"
Right.
had like a really brutal cover, and they made a post that was like, "Hey, we heard your concerns, and it was satire, but they were like, "Oh, we heard your concerns about the new album cover. We've replaced it. Sorry to offend anybody." And then the fake one was like a stick man with a rainbow over him that just was like, you know, and it just said "Happy Man." Like they crossed out "broken," it just said "Happy Man." Like, um, it's not about glorifying upsetting, disturbing emotions or dark moments, but it's about addressing them.
Right.
If our faith was just about being happy, then suffering wouldn't be promised to us, you know?
Yeah.
And this is a genre where those emotions are explored very effectively, you know?
Yeah. And
So
there's
yeah.
a really good quote I heard by a theologian named John Lennox. He's like a Irish mathematician, and he was actually famous for debating Richard Dawkins on the existence of God. And he did a talk about if God is so good and loving, why does suffering persist in the world, and why is suffering a thing? Like, why does a good God allow suffering? And he said, well, suffering is the focal point of Christianity. God is not removed from our suffering to the point where he came to earth in the form of his own son in human form and suffered and died on a cross, which was the most excruciating form of death at that time. So the whole focal point of Christianity is suffering.
Yeah. And it's not excuse me. It's not necessarily about glorifying suffering,
Right.
but overcoming it and
Right. Exactly.
you know, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
And the book of James says that. I forget specifically where, but I think it's James 1. It says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you're faced with trials of many kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance,
Exactly.
and let perseverance complete its work in you, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." And
Yeah.
what you just said, it can be easy to misinterpret and be like, "Oh, we're glorifying the suffering or like the hardship." It's letting that suffering take you via God's hand, like letting the suffering and overcoming that suffering give glory to God, like showing, look what God has gotten me through, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you guys watch The Chosen by chance?
I need to start it. My
There, there,
family's watching it right now. I have to start it.
there's a really good episode of The Chosen where, I mean, some people might complain that there are backstories and things about the disciples that probably aren't historical, but they add context for the show and for dramatic purposes. So we know that there was a James the Greater and James the Lesser. So the show portrays James the Lesser as someone who I guess has scoliosis or some type of debilitating
Right.
like disability that keeps him from being able to walk properly. So there's a scene where he's talking with Jesus and he said, "Well, Jesus, you gave us the ability to go heal people and preach your word, and I've seen you heal hundreds of people, but you haven't healed me. Like, what's the deal?" And Jesus said, "Well, I'm doing this for a sign, for a reason to prove my existence." He said, "You know, how good is it for these people to be healed and then go proclaim my name? But you sat here with me, and in your suffering and disability, you can still praise me in your disability." He said, "Isn't that much more important than me healing you?"
Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
that scene.
that's powerful.
Okay, so this episode has gotten a lot deeper than I was expecting.
Oh, no.
I'm happy about that actually.
Yeah.
I find that the best conversations come out of these topics, but
Yeah, for sure.
like I before this recording, I mean the listeners and people watching didn't see this, but before we were recording, we were like showing off Bionicles and
No,
Funko Pops and stuff. So I was like, "Oh, well, this will be one of those episodes where we." Okay, Mike's just gonna start showing off
there's
his
my
Bionicles.
Godzilla posters, my Star Wars. I've got Godzilla here, a Star Wars trilogy interspersed with Godzilla and Kong. And that is a poster from Avengers Endgame that we got when we saw it for like the fourth time.
Sick.
And that Godzilla -1 poster after I saw that movie like 5 times.
Oh my gosh, that is the best poster lineup ever.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, I've got my Godzilla collection here, some other classic monster and movie Funkos and action figures back here as well. Some more Godzilla. Recently got Ninja Turtles. So
Oh, let's
yeah,
go.
I've got a crazy collection. Yeah.
Sorry, my camera went to my VR headset.
I know. I was gonna say, what happened to Brandon?
Anyway, I guess I'll be doing the interview like this now. Sorry, wait, let me fix that. Wait, I think my camera's glitching out. I'm leaving that in though, where we're talking about the nerdy stuff because that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Also, Godzilla -1.
Oh,
was
my
stellar.
new favorite movie of all time, easily.
I don't blame you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That was a nice relaxing break from the heavy tones of this episode. Although it was an incredibly pleasant conversation, and it actually helped me articulate a lot of points that I've had in my own head for a long time about justifying heavier music and heavier themes in media in general to explore emotions. Obviously, my first defense is just sort of like, well, there's mature themes in the Bible, so why can't we have mature themes in like other media? And I do think that's a fair point, but I got to be able to articulate it better than that. But anyway, it's very cool. Especially getting to hear it from one of the creators that I've been listening to music from for a while now. And then we started talking about Godzilla for a second before my computer was destroyed. But yeah, thank you and all the guys in the band, either who were here and then stopped being here, or who just weren't able to make it here in the first place, for contributing to feeding the subgenre that does not get the God-inspired lyrics as often as it should.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
I was definitely glad I could be part of this.
Yeah.
We're glad you could make it. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just wish the internet connections were working better for everybody.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems to be tonight's curse.
You know, despite my computer's best efforts, we have resulted in actually a rather good conversation and a great episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Christcore lives on. It seems like California is getting fed a lot in particular. I mean, you guys are at least Unworthy is a California-based band, correct?
Yeah.
California's been getting fed pretty well, it sounds like. Christian Deathcore specifically. I think, if memory serves, Cultist is a California-based band. Impending Doom was, or
Impending
is.
Doom.
You guys get all the all the great stuff. But yeah, I don't want to keep you terribly too long. I know you're saying your phone is starting to deplete. But before we go, I have two quick questions. Well,
Yeah,
we kind of
sure.
answered the first one earlier. The first one is usually what's next for your project, like what's best next for Unworthy. It sounds like you kind of answered that earlier.
We've got a ton of stuff just kind of sitting in limbo right now that we've been working on for quite a while. I mean, in fact, like I said, when Anthony and Zach and Eli first joined, it was like we had a group chat, and literally every day, one of them was sending like an MP3 of something they had wrote the night prior. They were like, "Hey, here's a demo. Here's a demo I put together." So, like, I think in like maybe the span of a couple weeks, we had like a dozen demos that the guys had wrote between them.
You guys were just high on inspiration for a while.
And then I was
like
emailing them lyrics that I'd had in kind of the back burner for a while. Yeah, I think we've got a good at least 10 to 12 songs that we probably have in the works, maybe, hopefully.
Wow, awesome. Okay, a lot of ammunition from you guys. That's great.
Yeah,
excuse me. And then my last question, I ask all of our guests, if you're comfortable, would you feel comfortable ending the episode off in a prayer?
Yeah, sure.
And pray about whatever you like. The only reason I preface that is because what ends up happening is every vocalist prays for us, and it's the sweetest thing ever. But I feel like I'm just like, this vocalist has prayed for me, and this vocalist has prayed for me. So pray for whatever you like. It's not just I say end the episode off in prayer, but pray about whatever you like.
Yeah, sure. I'll say a quick prayer for us.
Thank you
Heavenly
very
Father,
much.
thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity here to be on the podcast with Michael and Brandon, Lord. Despite the little hangups we had with Jordan getting cut off and the other connection issues, Lord, we still persevered and had a great time and got through some awesome topics together, Lord. Just ask you to bless the guys and their work with their podcast and their YouTube channel, Lord. They keep moving on, and just ask you to continue to bless this music scene, Lord. Not just our band, but there are so many other great bands out there who deserve recognition, Lord. And I just pray that they get the recognition they deserve for the work that they're putting through, Lord, and that you get all the glory in the end. We just ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.